It's 10 minutes right now past the hour of 8 o'clock. And we got Helen Stapleton here with us this morning from the Franklin County Democratic Party, Common Sense Matters. Good morning, stranger.
I know. It has been such a long time, and I'm glad to be back here again.
Hang on a minute. Oh, there we go. I was testing it out and forgot to push that button back.
Okay.
All right.
So we're recording, ready to go. All right. Hey, yeah, it has been a really, really long time since I have been on the radio, and I'm glad to be back. Just been really busy at work. Anybody working in schools is really, really busy right now. It is a new world.
I can imagine.
Oh, my God. Yeah. We've got online classes, in-person classes, and then a mixture. So it's been a lot of work.
Kind of confusing maybe a little bit.
Very, yeah. Or you go to class this day, but then you don't go the other day. It's just, yeah, it's been a lot of work. But anyway, glad to be back, and I just have a few announcements for the Franklin County Democratic Party. This Saturday, that's September 12th, from 10 to 3, we're going to have a little table set up where we're going to be selling some Biden-Harris signs, Biden-Harris bumper stickers, and buttons. So it's going to be on the corner of Bible Crossing and Old Estill Springs Road. We're just going to have a table set up there. The yard signs are $10. The bumper stickers are $3 and the buttons are $4. So anytime between 10 and 3, you can just drive up. It's going to be out in the fresh air. Come and get you a yard sign. And then our other event coming up is we have our monthly business meeting, and that's going to be on Thursday, September 17th at 5:30, and we're going to be in the big meeting room at the Annex. So that's Thursday, September 17th at 5:30. We're going to be in the big meeting room, so there's plenty of room to spread out. We wear masks. We leave the door wide open, so that, you know, there's some fresh air in there. But also some people, older people still don't want to, come out in public, so we're going to have a Zoom link. So if you want to get on our mailing list and get the Zoom link, just send us an email at Franklin County Democratic Party, Franklin County, Tennessee Democratic Party at gmail.com. Franklin County, Tennessee Democratic Party at gmail.com. Or you can look us up on Facebook. So again, if you need a yard sign, come by the corner of Bible Crossing Road and Old Estill Springs Road. It's right across the street from Betty Fraley's house. We're going to be there from 10 to 3 selling signs. And man, I got to tell you, it's hard keeping a Biden sign up. You put one up, the next day it's gone.
What?
Yeah, I don't understand. If people believe in freedom and rights, like, how would you want only your party's signs to be up? But my husband went out, he went to Walmart and spent like $200 on cameras because 5 of his signs went missing.
Really?
Down at our farm. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. Oh no. Betty Fraley's lost 3 Biden signs out of her yard. I put one at the corner of Sherwood Road and the highway. The next day it was gone. Yeah, I know. I thought we were about freedom.
Really?
Anyway, but so if you spend $10 on something, you might want to put a camera on it, or I don't know what. Oh, I mean, and it's not just here. It's all over the county. Like, people are all over the country. I mean, like in Pennsylvania, there was a story on the news about all these things that people are doing to their signs, like putting glitter in them and all these things to keep people from taking them. But in any case, we hope that y'all will come to our meeting on September 17th. And today we're going to be interviewing Christopher Hale. And speaking of signs, you might have seen his signs. They say "Hale Yes." I've seen quite a few just on my way down here through Cowan and other places. So he is running to be our next U.S. representative to represent us here in the 4th District. It's a big district. It's currently being held by Scott Desjardins, and that's who he is running against. And so he's going to be calling in just a little bit. Was that him on the phone just now? Okay. Okay, actually, yeah, he'll be calling in at in about 15 minutes, I guess. But anyway, so he's going to be running for U.S. representative. For our state representative, Iris Rutter is running uncontested. And then for our state Senate race, we have Sheila Younglove is the Democrat running against Janice Bowling, the Republican. And then, governor's not up. And then for U.S. Senate, we have Marquita Bradshaw running against Bill, is it Hager?
Haggerty.
Haggerty. And then, of course, President, I think we all know that, Biden versus Trump. So those are the elections coming up. Please, y'all, get out and vote. I think here in Franklin County, it is very safe to vote in person. I feel like if you can... You disagree?
No, I agree.
Oh, okay. I thought you'd made a face.
No, I agree.
I mean, I feel like if you feel safe enough to go to Kroger's, I think voting is safe enough too. Like, that's my opinion.
I got you.
But
we had a phone call that asked you to repeat once again those hours that you're going to be out on Bible Crossing.
Oh, yeah.
And the date.
Okay. Yeah, it's this Saturday, September 12th, from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. We're just going to have a little table set up, and it's going to be on the corner of Old Estill Springs and Bible Crossing Road. And we're going to be selling Biden-Harris signs. They're $10 each. We're going to have bumper stickers for $3 each and buttons for $4 each. So, yeah, please stop by 10 a.m. till 3 p.m. this Saturday, September 12th.
Right. And then your meeting is the 17th.
Yeah, our meeting is the 17th at 5:30, and you can Zoom in if you email us. You can get the Zoom link or join our Facebook page. You can get the Zoom link and come, or you can be in person. I mean, there's plenty of room in that big community room to spread out and wear masks if you want to. So
that's next Thursday.
Yeah, this coming Thursday. But anyway, about voting though, if you are going to vote absentee, this is the time to be requesting your ballot. Okay, be sure. And if you have any questions at all, just call the Franklin County Election Commission, and Miss Otley will answer any questions you have. I'm Googling the number right now for the Election Commission. I think it's even in my phone. But call them. There's so much misinformation out there that the best thing you can do is call 967-1893. That's the Franklin County Election Commission. Whatever they tell you, that is going to be the truth about deadlines, about how to get an absentee ballot, and all that. So, if you're going to be out of town for work or for school, or if you're over 65, then it's very easy to get a ballot for absentee. Otherwise, though, I've never, I know that in other parts of the country there are long lines and, whatnot, but every time I voted in Franklin County, whether it was early voting at the Election Commission or, at my district in Swanee, I never had to wait a long time. But when I voted in the primary last time, there was hardly any lines. People were 6 feet apart. Everybody wore a mask. It was very safe. So I really do think that you will be safe voting. If you feel like if you can go into a store and buy a candy bar, then I don't see why you can't vote in person.
When I went and voted, there was like nobody in the building except for the workers. I think there was one that was leaving as I was going in, and one coming as I was leaving. So it was pretty safe. And of course. Yeah. You got what, disposable ink pens?
Yeah, they even gave you an ink pen. You didn't have to. Yeah. And then after you did have to touch the buttons on the thing, but you just go right away. Go wash your hands when you're done with that, or put some hand sanitizer on.
Right.
But I do think anyone who wants to vote absentee should be able to, and you were able to do that in the primary. But since then, the Tennessee Supreme Court has ruled that you cannot use fear of COVID as an excuse for an absentee ballot. they put that in there real quick.
But of course, you can do early voting if you want to.
Yeah.
And of course, the county has gone out and got those new misters that now they can. I wonder if they'll use it every night after voting to sanitize the room. It's a cool thing that they've got that sterilizes rooms in just hours.
Okay.
And it kills the COVID-19 germs.
Okay. Well, that's good
so,
to know.
So you guys, it's part of our I guess that CARES Act money that the county got.
Oh, right.
They bought these machines.
Oh, good. Okay.
You'll learn about it at the county commission meeting.
Yeah.
Because they approved it during the finance meeting this week.
Okay. Yeah, so about COVID-19, I think the county is currently at 158 cases right now of active cases.
It varies from day to day. One day it was up to 170 one day, then it dropped back down to 150. So it kind of, I think 170 is the most we've ever had on one day.
Right. And then the schools are going to shut down if it reaches above 230.
Yeah, 230, 240, somewhere in that neck of the woods.
Okay. Yeah, at Sewanee yesterday we had one employee and one student test positive, and last week we had 3 students. So they're being really diligent about testing every week, and making sure that the people who have it, that the students either go home or they put them in a whole separate dorm, I think out at St. Mary's. But so we're trying to be careful up there.
And of course, the school systems are now reporting what they have in the schools, and there's a website that you can go to. In Franklin County, we had 8 cases this week, and there were 5 staff members this week in the Franklin County school system.
Okay. All
So,
right.
and that's down, I think, because at one time they had like 10, and they were all in the band. So the band had to shut down for a weekend.
Oh, that's a shame.
But they're back up and going.
I can't wait till all this is over. I just, I feel like I've spent my entire life mastering the art of every time I leave the house having my phone, my wallet, and my keys. And now I got to add one more thing to that list, and that's I can't tell you how many times I've gotten out the door, rushing out to get to work.
I forgot my mask.
Over
and you're in a required area to where you are required.
I have to wear one walking down the street. Yeah, I sure do. I mean, if nobody's around you don't have, if you're by yourself or with a person you live with, you don't have to wear it. But as soon as you see somebody, you have to put it on. So if you're walking just totally by yourself, you don't have to wear it. But yeah, eventually, I know you're definitely going to need one. Sooner or later, you're going to run into somebody. So yeah, we're keeping our numbers down up there, so that's good. What were we talking about? Well, I'm waiting on Christopher Hale to call in. I don't know what's keeping him. I'm going to just send him a text real quick. But we have a lot to talk with him about. Hang on, I'm just sending him a text.
All right.
Okay. One thing I was going to ask him about, and I'm just curious what you think about this, Al, is just this. And this is a sign that I pass by in Winchester all the time because it's right by my vet's office. And every time I'm leaving my vet's office, I see this sign, and it says veterans before illegals, or veterans over illegals. And yeah, sure, but why not veterans before? I mean, I 100% want our veterans to get all of their benefits, to be fully funded, but why is it veterans versus illegals? Why isn't it, I want to see veterans funded over billionaire oil executives, or I want to see veterans funded over corporate tax loopholes, or you know what I mean? Like it assumes that there's this big pie, there's a teeny little sliver left, and either illegals are going to get it or veterans are going to get it, when actually we have a big old pie and there's enough for everybody. And I don't think it's not that everything you give to an illegal is something less that a veteran's going to get.
Right.
That's a zero-sum kind of thinking. It's a false choice. And there's so many false choices out there. Like, if you support, if you're against police brutality, it means you hate the police. No, I love the police.
Yep.
Do we answer? Okay. What do I do?
Just push the button that's flashing.
Okay. Hi, is this Christopher?
Yes. Hi. How are you all doing today?
All right, good. Well, we've been waiting on you. We're glad you joined us. So, y'all, this is Christopher Hale. He's running for to be our next U.S. representative, and he is from Murfreesboro, born and raised there. Tell us a little bit more about yourself for people who may not have met you yet.
Yes. Well, you might notice my Hell Yes signs all throughout Franklin County, Winchester, Decker, Cowan, Suwannee, and the rest. Yes, my name is Chris Hale. I am born and raised here in Middle Tennessee. Was public school educated my entire childhood. Spent my career after college working in public service in advocacy, both in the government and outside the government. I came back to Tennessee in my late 20s and mid to late 20s and moved back home to Murfreesboro, and have been dedicating my time back here to really rebuilding a political movement here in the South that I think we lost in a lot of ways historically, but the movement that I really grew up with in Tennessee that was focused on basic principles. People ask me why I'm running for the United States Congress, and to me, it's pretty simple. I think that if I put it to a very narrow way, I think that every Tennessee child should have a roof over their head, food on the table, and a world-class school in their neighborhood. These are just basic tenets that I think are desired by each and every Tennessee family. And Congressman Desjardins, my opponent, has been absent from this community for way too long. It's been over 7 years since he has had a in-person town hall. Now, there might be folks like Joanne Davis who go around town and try to be his surrogate, but my question is, why isn't he around town? Why hasn't he showed up to our community?
Well, I think he comes to fundraisers, but...
Go ahead, what were you saying?
Oh, I said I think he comes to fundraisers, but not an open to the whole town hall. Yeah. Go ahead.
He'll be there, but if Democrats or non-Republicans without money are going to be there, he won't. And I think that the question is, I think the reason why is that he knows, Congressman Desjardins knows that really what's happened is this scandal that engulfed him a decade ago has rendered him ineffective to lead, and he has been unable to go past it. He was voted the least effective legislator by the National Review, which is a harbinger of right-wing conservative opinion. In 2016, David French, a well-known conservative writer, and said that he is the biggest hypocrite in American politics. Congressman Desjardins, I want everyone to listen out there to understand this. Congressman Desjardins is not pro-life. He is not pro-life. Look at his personal life. Ask his mistresses from the past, his patients he slept with. Ask his ex-wife, who he pressured into 2 abortions. Ask the other mistress he pressured into an abortion. But more importantly, Helen, and we were talking about this earlier as I was listening, we got to talk about, ask a million folks, over 1 million people in Tennessee right now do not have jobs right now, don't have basic health care, don't have living wages. If you ask them, they'll tell you the truth. Congressman Desjardins isn't pro-life. This scandal has rendered him ineffective to lead, and he's gone into hiding. And it's remarkable. I imagine there's a lot of Trump supporters out there who are listening to this phone call and are listening to this interview. And, it's interesting to me. Obviously, I don't agree with everything that President Trump does or says. I'm a Democrat. But, President Trump came together with Speaker Pelosi in the middle of March 14th, and they put together this bill, this coronavirus relief bill. And the President of the United States and Speaker Pelosi agreed on 3 things. Number 1, every Tennessean should get access to rapid results of coronavirus testing. Not that testing that takes 2 weeks to get back that's currently inundating our system and causing folks to go weeks without results. He they agreed on a small business stimulus that eventually became the PPP loan program, which over 94 businesses in Franklin County used to save to keep the doors open when times got worse. Congressman Desjardins voted against that. And then the third part of that bill was going to get paid sick leave so that you don't have to go to work, or if you get sick, your spouse gets sick, or your child gets sick, and you know that you'll have access to capital, to money, and not have to risk going to work during the midst of a pandemic if you are sick. And so Congressman Desjardins voted against this. And, President Trump, he tweets occasionally. I don't know if you know that, Helen. I don't know if you follow him on Twitter, but he occasionally tweets. He's tweeted about 45,000 times
ever.
in 3.5 years as President of the United States. It's pretty impressive. He tweeted that the men who opposed this bill, only 39 members of the United States Congress opposed this bill. He tweeted that those who opposed his bill were third-rate stooges. So you know what, Helen? I am with President Trump. Scott Desjardins is a third-rate stooge.
Well,
he's absolutely right.
Okay, we in Franklin County really benefited from the CARES Act and those PPP loans. I'm on the county commission, and I have noticed that since the pandemic, our sales tax revenues haven't gone down at all, and it's because all these people are getting these what were generous unemployment benefits, and the small businesses were getting loans. But now that this has not been renewed, I'm really worried that I'm really worried what's going to happen to people in Franklin County without that. I mean, people who worked in the in the restaurant industry or other things, they were getting those weekly $600 payments, and so that was keeping all the businesses in Franklin County afloat. And I'm really worried what's going to happen now if Congress doesn't get in there and renew this or renegotiate it somehow.
It's remarkable too that the United States House of Representatives, almost in a bipartisan way, you had a significant number of Republicans who crossed over to vote for it on May 17th. So what is that? Gosh, 3 months ago, 3.5 months ago, before Memorial Day, we're now post Labor Day. In the middle of May, the what you referred to, the CARES Act, was going to be passed. It was passed by the United States House of Representatives. Now, this bill was huge. It was $3.2 trillion. And I want people to kind of get a sense of how behemoth of a bill that is. That is 3 times bigger than the bailout, actually 4 times bigger than the bailout that was passed during the height of the Great Recession a decade ago. It was 5 times more expensive than the Iraq War. It was 6 times more expensive than Medicare Part B, which passed in 2003. This was a behemoth bill. It was 3 times bigger than any bill ever passed. But
it helped regular people. It helped regular people. It didn't all just get wasted in Iraq or not, sure. not necessarily wasted, but sent somewhere else. It helped American businesses and American families. So yeah, I'm okay with spending when it actually helps people.
Well, the vast majority of the bill was good, in my humble opinion. With every piece of legislation, there's good and bad. Mm-hmm. There's positive parts of it, and there's negative parts of it. But here's the most important part I want to get to. This is a huge bill, and I'm sure a lot of conservatives out there are skeptical about this bill and think maybe the price tag was too big. But here's what they should know. Congressman Desjardins, in the midst of that bill, here's the question I have for him. Did he vote yes or did he vote no? And the answer is neither of the above. Congressman Desjardins was not there. He did not vote on that bill. He was off duty at that point. He decided during the midst of this pandemic that he was going to get an elective knee surgery. He couldn't get in the state of Tennessee because it was legal at the time to get surgeries. So he's recovering from surgery in the midst of this bill. And the only other folks who did not show up for that bill were octogenarians, folks 80 or above, and a few folks who actually had COVID. Mm-hmm. So Congressman Desjardins, during the most difficult and most pressing moment in the history of our country, the biggest public health crisis we ever faced, highest unemployment since the Great Depression in Franklin County, during this big moment of our nation's history, he chose himself. He chose himself. He did not choose you and your family. He did not show up to compete for this bill to make it better, to reform it, and to get it passed so that our families could have have these access to these benefits. We need a second PPP loan. We need small business stimulus. We've got to keep our economy moving forward. But Congressman Desjardins decided to take advantage of his taxpayer-funded Platinum health care plan to get a taxpayer-funded knee surgery. We sent him flowers. So I did send the congressman flowers from Murfreesboro Flower Shop. So we hope his knee's better. But that is a moral choice that I think is honestly repugnant.
Yeah, that
anger folks.
Yeah, that's the hypocrisy about him that bothers me. It's like when it's convenient for him to have an abortion, he gets them. But when anyone else needs one, no. Or he has perfect government health insurance for himself, but not for you. So it's just like whatever will benefit him, yeah, but he's going to deny that to other people.
Well, it's remarkable to me because when we talk about the swamp, that is the swamp. 82 times Congressman Desjardins has voted to take away your health care in Franklin County. There are 6,400 citizens who have health care through the exchange. Congressman Desjardins wants to rip it away from you. 82 times he's voted to take away from you. But when times are tough and during the pandemic, he'll make you pay for his knee surgery. And I think that the reason that you have folks, look, Doug Meyer, God bless him, he's crazy. Doug Meyer is nuts. And I've debated Doug Meyer, he's nuts. But he's right about one thing. Scott Desjardins sold the people of Franklin County out. That's why Doug Meyer got thousands and thousands of votes in Franklin County. I believe over 5,000 people showed up, 6,000 people showed up in Franklin County Republican primary to vote against Scott Desjardins. They didn't want to listen to Joanne Davis, who was once a Democrat, who went to power, went to the other side, thought she'd joined the swamp. They voted against Scott Desjardins, and they voted for change. Now, we're reaching out to those voters, and I want every Doug Meyer voter to know, every Randy Sharp voter to know that who was sick of the swamp, was sick of Swampy Scott, was sick of deep state Desjardins in his decade in office when he promised you he'd only serve 2 terms. You're going to be Chris Hale voters on November 3rd. And the big thing I want to say to these folks, too, is you're not giving me a decade. I know where I'm from. This is one of the most conservative and red districts on God's green earth. You're not giving me keys to the kingdom for a long time. You're giving me 2 years. You're giving me a lease of 2 years, and you're giving me a chance. And if you don't like me, I promise you, there are Republicans who are a lot better representatives of your values, of your family values, or your pro-life values than Scott Desjardins. And here's the thing, in a decade in office, not one member of the United States Congress has endorsed Scott Desjardins. Isn't that remarkable? There's 435 members of Congress. He served with over 663 Republicans in a decade, and not one of them said, Scott Desjardins is your man. Not one state legislator in the state of Tennessee has ever endorsed Scott Desjardins. Why has Paul Sherrill not endorsed Scott Desjardins? Why is Janice Bowen not supporting Scott Desjardins? Why have they not endorsed him? And I think the reason we know why is because they know he is not a good representation of their values, their way of life, the highest ideals of the Republican Party. So if you want a better Republican Party, what do you have to lose by kicking this guy out of office? You give me a chance of 2 years, and you don't like the way I govern, go get yourself a better representative. Janice Bowen, I'm sure, would love to run for the United States Congress in 2022. We'll let her, and I'll put this on the record. Janice Bowen will be a better congressman than Scott Desjardins. Janice Bowen should endorse me. Janice, you're out there listening. You should endorse me for United States Congress. And we can run against each other in 2022. Scott Desjardins does not have the support of the Republican Party because he is not a good Republican. He's voted to increase the debt and deficit time and again. If you don't like Planned Parenthood and you've got issues with Scott Desjardins, you probably have issues with him voting to fund Planned Parenthood. I'll vote to fund Planned Parenthood, but Scott Desjardins has done it 18 times.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
He's not a good representation
Right.
of conservative values.
Okay.
That's why crazy Doug Meyer did so well against him.
Okay, well, let's talk about you and what is important to you. What are your legislative priorities if you were to be elected? What do you think are the three biggest issues that you could do that would help people in your district?
Sure. I think the three biggest issues is I look at them again and again and talk to the people over 16 counties of the 4th Congressional District, 254 communities in this district. The three biggest issues are healthcare, and healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to explain why I really want to narrow my focus. When you go to Congress, you're competing in some ways against the clock, but you're also competing against 434 other members of Congress for resources, for priorities. It's a competitive free market, if you will. And so what we have a situation is, in Tennessee, we have a healthcare deficit of hospitals that is higher in the 4th Congressional District than it is in Iraq, Iran, and Syria. And I'm not.
Wait, I'm sorry. What do you mean by a deficit? What you mean that that our local hospitals are running a deficit? Meaning they're what do you mean by a deficit?
Access to high quality health care.
Okay.
So the amount of Tennesseans who have to travel 60 miles or more
Mm-hmm.
to visit an ICU,
Mm-hmm.
to see a healthcare provider,
Mm-hmm.
to have a major medical surgery.
Mm-hmm.
It's higher in our district than in the 4th Congressional District. It's one of the highest in the country, and it's higher than situations in Iraq, Iran, and Syria.
We are so lucky in winter.
What's so interesting about this is we talk about healthcare, and I want to talk about healthcare, but the first thing is that the reality of it is healthcare does not matter if you do not have high-quality hospitals in your community. When I'm elected to United States Congress, we're going to ensure that St. Thomas Healthcare System and Vanderbilt Healthcare System, that they're not just building hospitals in Nashville and Murfreesboro and Williamson County and the wealthy communities that surround the biggest cities of the state. I want to start investing in rural healthcare and hospitals. So I'm proposing what I call the Rural Hospitals Guarantee. That means that that there will be a high-quality, world-class healthcare facility within 75 miles of each Tennessean's home. Mm-hmm. And what we do on that, on the Rural Hospitals Guarantee, I have a two-pronged approach. Number one, we are going to incentivize the St. Thomas's of the world, Vanderbilt hospitals of the world, to get out of the suburbs and get into the rural communities with tax credits, with infrastructure development, with pure cash allocations, so that they can have private nonprofit provider facilities. Mm-hmm. Now, if they don't want to play ball, which sometimes they don't, they will build the hospital. The best example we have of this in our district is down in Lincoln County. Lincoln County has a publicly run hospital, but the issue is it is funded by the taxpayers of Lincoln County, and Lincoln County is not the wealthiest place on earth. So what I'm saying is that we have federally funded rural hospitals, federally subsidized rural hospitals. So that's the biggest issue that I want to focus on. But make no mistake, if I win this election, Medicaid expansion will come to Tennessee overnight.
Yeah, well, but that is decided at the state level. So we need
Sure.
Janice Bowling and Iris Rudder to vote for Medicaid expansion in our state, which they have voted against over and over and over. In Franklin County, if you have a low-paying but very, very necessary job, so you make too much for Medicaid, but you don't make enough for the exchanges, you're in the Medicaid gap, what we call, you cannot get health insurance. And so it's hard-working people doing necessary work are going without health insurance, while prisoners get health insurance, people who do nothing all day get health insurance, and then people with good jobs and rich people get health insurance. I feel so horrible for these people that are in the middle who are doing the right thing. And I'm not saying everyone on Medicaid is sitting around doing nothing. I don't mean to say
Sure.
that. I know that a lot of them have conditions where they can't work. I totally get that. But I'm just saying it's wrong when there's this group in the middle, in the lower middle class, who is being left out. People who are comfortable and rich have health insurance, and people who have absolutely nothing or are in jail have health insurance. And that health coverage, and then these people who are doing the right thing every day don't, because they refuse to pass Medicaid expansion, and we're losing all of this federal money here in Tennessee. And Iris Rudder and Janice Bowling could change that tomorrow if they wanted to, and that makes me very upset. So how could you override our state legislature's opposition to Medicaid expansion?
Because Janice Bowling and Iris Rudder, with all due respect to them, are not politically idiots. Like, they understand that if I win this election on the 6th of November, they're going to see the writing on the wall. If I win this election on the 3rd of November, it will be a communication, because I'm running on healthcare. It will be a communication that rural Tennesseans, like the folks in rural Missouri, voted just literally 33 days ago. Rural Missouri voted overwhelmingly to expand Medicaid when it's put to the voters. If a vote for Chris Hale is a vote for health care, they will see the writing on the wall, and they know. I mean, they're politically adept. They understand that they're in minority territory, but they'll see the political vulnerabilities for their own electoral futures to not expand Medicaid. I promise you, Bill Lee talked about his conversion to Christ in the 90s and 2000s and wrote a book to try to sell it to us. The biggest conversion that Bill Lee will have on the 3rd of November is on Medicaid. He will see my election, and he will see the writing on the wall for his own electoral future in 2 years that it's time to play ball. And he talks about this 20 to 30 year plan on Medicaid expansion, which basically means do nothing. That will become a 30-day plan. I promise you that if I get elected in January, maybe even earlier, in January, that when they reconvene the General Assembly, they will pass Medicaid in a heartbeat. Because my election will, and this is the big thing I'll say, my election will not be by myself. I'm running with folks all across the community, like Sheila Younglove, who I think has a great shot. And we have folks like Chase Clemens and Dean Sparks. I'm just naming names across the community who are running with me. We'll gain seats in the legislature under my umbrella under this victory. But also, more importantly, the Republicans, in an attempt to maintain political power, they will find Jesus. Okay, on health care, they will find Jesus.
Let's hope. Okay, let's switch now to agriculture. What are your plans for agriculture here? I know this is just I'm just speaking personally for our situation. Currently, there is such a line to get animals slaughtered here in Franklin County. We are in line until September 2021 to get our cows slaughtered. Our cattle slaughtered. This is just us. I'm just speaking anecdotally. There is a huge backlog in slaughterhouses and in other things. So what do you think you could do to help agriculture in our district?
Two things. Number one, we need more investment, and frankly, we need better regulations. On the regulation capacity, what happens is the federal government is too involved, and there's two one-size-fits-all methodologies on regs. And we see that play out. The federal bureaucracy on USDA, the FDA, the various components of that regulate the agriculture industry in Tennessee, along with the state and local, it's a complicated mess. And we have to acknowledge that. And look, here's my worldview on regs.
Regulations, you mean?
Yes, exactly. Regulations. I apologize.
That's all right.
Speaking in nomenclature. Yes, my worldview on regulations is this. We can't be married to regulations for regulation's sake. There has to be a purposeful value added to it. Particularly on agriculture, we need to make sure our food is safe and it's secure, and done so in a way that protects our children and our posterity. But we can't just simply have an outsized number of regulations that do not actually serve the purpose, instead of paying a government employee to come out and check things out. And so what I like to do is I want to reform the regulation system to get rid of the one-size-fits-all approach. We've got to staff these regional offices of the USDA with folks who know what they're doing. The average age of an employee at the USDA local departments here in the South is 26 years old. And so, I'm young too, I'm not disparaging the youth, but these folks don't know what they're doing. We find that time and again. We have We have understaffed, undertrained offices. So what I want to do is I want to modernize the regulation system within the USDA, but also too we've got to reimagine investment in our local communities, in our local agricultural communities, and so continue the investment. But one thing we've done wrong, in my opinion, is we have created a situation where our entire worldview on ag, and this is my party's fault too. I think the Democrats take a lot of blame for this. We have been simply imagining agriculture as a means of keeping it alive. It is too big to fail. It is too important to fail. But in terms of our imagination, there are ways that we can make agriculture thrive in rural Tennessee. Every farmer listening today, I don't want you to simply survive. I want you to be wealthy. I want you to make money. I want you to be able to pass off this noble vocation to your children, and them not simply get by, but them to get rich. Farmers should be wealthy, because what they're doing is they're providing an important service and vocation and industry, the most crucial of industries to the people of Tennessee. And so one of the ways I think we've got to do that is we need to have investment and innovation and free market investment. And also, if I can, we need to legalize marijuana. We've got to have new forms of farming that can make money for our farmers, and we've got to unleash the potential of the American farming system. Right now, it's too stilted in regulations. We're not allowing our farmers to innovate like they should and could, but we're also holding them back by keeping industries down that I think would be crucial to our future. On legalized cannabis, on marijuana, the best example I have is my best friends over in Grundy County, just one county over from y'all. Grundy County in 2014 seized, chew on this for a second, $42 million of cannabis. That number is not wrong. $42 million of cannabis.
Seized it? Like, as in it
What's
got,
that?
as in the police seized it?
And yes,
Okay.
they did.
Okay.
And let me tell you, read about this sometime. Here's what they did.
And they were growing it there?
Yes.
Okay.
It was a growing and distribution there. $42 million. The police burned it. The sheriff's office burned it. And to me, I was not there at the time. I imagine they might as well burn the money, because that money could have been so much in taxpayer revenue to improve our schools, to improve our infrastructure, to improve our tourism industries. We've got to legalize this marijuana, because I think it is the pathway forward, one of the pathways forward to southern industry, to southern rural industry, to agricultural industry. Under my worldview, under my system, under my proposal, I want to be on the House Ag Committee. I want to make Tennessee farmers rich. I don't want you to have to rely on the winds of change. I don't want the president to screw you over with tariffs and then write you a check that gives you marginal gains. I want you to thrive in your industry. I want to make you rich. And so we've got to start having that imagination. Farming should be an industry of possibility and potential. It's very hard for farmers right now to convince their children to stay in the family business, and that's horrible for our country. We need farming. We need agriculture. I love my friend AOC in New York City, but we're not going to make this future of our country sustainable on urban farming. Rural farming is the cornerstone of ag in this country, and the food that I'm eating this morning and keeping food on the table for our community. So I am heavily invested in it, and I want to imagine a future and invest in a future that has more modern, streamlined regulations, better investment.
All right. I'm switching gears now because we've only got 6 more minutes left. I've got to get back to work. What do you think about President Trump cutting the payroll tax?
Well, let's also be very clear on this.
And he's not cutting the workers' payroll tax. He's cutting the employer's share of the payroll tax, right?
Yes, and it's still due on January 1.
And what's going to happen?
Go ahead. What are you saying?
No, I'm just saying, what will be the result of that, do you think? And what would you do differently?
Well, number one, it's executive action, and he is. And just to clarify, he's doing a holiday. So on January 1, those bills are still due. It's kind of like rent deferral. You know, you still accrue the bill. You can live in the place, but the bill's still due. And so it's not a real cut. It's a sleight of hand. It's fuzzy math, as our friend Al Gore would call it. And what it does is he's giving us a hint, and Congressman Desjardins is 100% with him. He's trying to privatize and get rid of Social Security. That's what's going on here. This is a pathway to get rid of Social Security. Social Security, if we get rid of the employer portion of the payroll tax for good, Social Security is insolvent in 18 months. I know there's thousands of folks in Franklin County who worked their entire lives. This was the agreement they came to with their government, that they would work hard and they would give a portion of their paycheck every week or 2 weeks to the government, and the government would invest it and give it back to them when the time was ready. And so this is playing with fire. We cannot cut Social Security. You know, the elderly, the folks who have worked their entire lives to make a living for themselves and their families, this is a source of pension and income in their golden years, and I will not cut it. Scott Desjardins wants to. I will not cut it. I will expand it. So the payroll portion, the employee portion of the payroll tax is a sleight of hand, an electoral strategy, but more importantly, it's a hint of what Scott Desjardins wants to do. He wants to cut your Social Security. And I think that's morally repugnant. I'm not going to cut your Social Security. I'm going to expand it. Social Security has been one of the most popular programs in American history. Not every government program works, okay? And there's no doubt about it. We've seen failed government programs from the left and from the right time and again. But the two most popular programs in this country that have sustained through time immemorial are Social Security and Medicare. Scott Desjardins wants to cut Social Security. He wants to cut Medicare. I want to expand both of them.
And so if they undermine and destroy Social Security, we're going to be in a world where a worker who is barely making rent, groceries, and utilities has to then have the self-discipline to say, oh, okay, I'm going to do without my electric bill this month so I can voluntarily fund my personal IRA. Yeah, right. You know, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of people who are up a creek when they reach their retirement years, because you can't look at your child and say, no, sorry, we're not going to eat because we're going to put it into the IRA this week. You know, I mean, granted, when you're paying into Social Security, you know, that is actually money out of your paycheck, but you never saw it in the first place. Whereas if you get your paycheck and you're saying, oh, okay, I can fund my IRA, or we can eat this week, everybody is going to eat, and they are not going to fund their IRAs, and it's going to be a disaster. And
yes, and I'm not suggesting. Look, we need a thriving stock market. You know, a slight majority of U.S. Americans are on the stock market. The Social Security, though, is a baseline savings program that is inexpensive week in and week out, and provides a way to live a dignified life after retirement. People aren't getting wealthy on Social Security checks, but what they're doing is they're maintaining a basic dignified way of life after working decades in their communities. And so what is remarkable to me is, if you think about what that's going to do, let's just take away, if we take away the payroll tax, we know, and it's not their fault, employers are not going to give you that extra cash. They're going to keep it.
right,
They're going to keep it.
right.
The payroll tax is your dollar. You get it. And so they're going to keep it. They're not going to hire more. The times are tough. You think employers are going to take the margins that they're getting on saving payroll tax and invest in higher paying jobs? Not a chance. They're going to keep their bottom line afloat. So it's cynical beyond belief. Congressman Desjardins supports it because his number one goal, and I begin with this, Congressman Desjardins' number one goal, he's not very effective at it, but his number one legislative goal is to repeal the 20th century. He wants to get rid of Social Security and Medicare. He wants to get rid of organizing rights. labor rights, workers' rights, and he wants to get rid of civil rights. That's his entire agenda, is he wants to roll back the 20th century. The 20th century built Franklin County, and I don't want to repeal
It built the middle
past.
class, that's
I
for
want to build
sure.
the future.
Yeah, it built the middle class, that's for sure.
Amen.
Well, Christopher, we've got to go now. Is there any one last thing you want to say to people out there? How can they look you up?
Yeah, I want to speak particularly to the Republicans, to the Trump supporters. Congressman DesJarlais, I'm not a name caller myself, but if the president was running against Congressman DesJarlais, I think you might call him low energy. Congressman DesJarlais hasn't shown up for you. It's been 2,703 days since Congressman DesJarlais held an in-person town hall. I do show up. You know me, and I know you, and if you haven't met me yet, you know that you will. I show up. I take your questions. You can yell at me. You can spit at me. You can communicate with me. You can tell me what you need. I help you. I've helped small businesses get PPP loans. I've helped folks get their unemployment benefits right with the state. I will work for you. My allegiance, my first and unbreakable allegiance, is not to Joe Biden or Donald Trump or Nancy Pelosi or Kevin McCarthy or Joanne Davis. It's to you and your family. It's to you and those you love. I'm not asking for the keys to the kingdom. I'm running in one of the most conservative districts in the entire country. Congressman DesJarlais does not represent your pro-life values, your pro-family values. I will. You're only giving me 2 years. If you don't like me, you can replace me in 2 years. Janice Bowling would love this job. Iris Rudder would love this job. They could run against me, and if you want to vote for them in 2 years, you can. Give me a chance. I'll do better than the current congressman has. He hasn't done anything for your past decade. He's made $1.7 million. He got rich. We got sick. We lost our lives and livelihoods in Tennessee, and I'll do better.
All right, what is your website, real quick?
ChristopherHale.com. That's Christopher, HALE.com. You can learn more about me, my background, my policies, and you can get in contact with me. We're available. We answer emails and phone calls and text messages every day. And Lord knows I'll be in Franklin County again and again and again between now and Election Day, so I hope to see you on the road.
Okay, thank you so much, Christopher. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, and before we go, I just want to re-announce. Okay, and before I go, I just want to re-announce that this Saturday, September 12th, members of the Franklin County Democratic Party are going to be on the corner of Bible Crossing Road and Old Estill Springs Road from 10 until 3, and we're going to have Biden-Harris yard signs. They're $10 each, and bumper stickers for $3 each, and buttons for $4 each. So that's this Saturday, September 12th, from 10 a.m. to 3. Stop by and get you a sign. This is America. Everybody can put a sign in their yard, and there's private property, and we are not going to mess with anybody else's signs, and we hope nobody will mess with ours. Also, on Thursday, September 17th at 5:30 is our monthly meeting, and so we're going to be in the big meeting room at the annex. So if you just park on the side next to the practice football field, that's where we're going to be, and that's September 17th, Thursday at 5:30. We always meet the third Thursday of the month at 5:30. All right, well, that's it. Thank you so much, Al.
You're welcome. You're listening to WCDT, AM 1340, FM 106.9 in Winchester, Tennessee. It's 4 minutes past 9.
Time for your WCDT Community Calendar. Commodity Day will be held on September 10th from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock at the Pavilion at the 1041 Wilton Circle in Winchester, Tennessee. 8th Annual Fish Fry will be held September 19th, 2020 from 11 a.m. until 4 p.m. It'll be $12 per person at the Deckard Masonic Lodge, number 567. It'll be held at the 101 Mary